teasing me, 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 teasing me. The way you look at me tells me things unspoken, and the look in your eye tells me your heart's been broken before. The way you touch my hand, so gentle and sweet, exciting is a thought of when our bodies meet and explore. I know it's not real. I know it's not real. Don't tease me, baby. Girl, how does it feel when you're teasing me like I'm teasing too? Teasing me, teasing me. You gotta let go. Teasing me, teasing me. Seduce me with a smile and your coolness deep. Teasing me, the way we make love, hey, it's so unique, don't you know? In a room full of people, you're the only one that I see. The little things you do, girl, they make me weak, and it shows. I know it's not real. I know it's not real. Don't tease me, baby. Girl, how does it feel when you're teasing me like I'm teasing too? Teasing me, teasing me, teasing me, teasing me. I think we're past that point. Teasing me, you gotta let go. Teasing me, I just wanna love you, girl. I don't mean you no harm. Teasing me tonight.
wrongdoing, into wrongdoing, into wrongdoing.
A rap groove, me have a seat, I get down to the sound. A rap groove, on the mic rock twice. A rap groove, me have a seat, I get down to the sound. A rap groove, on the mic rock twice.
Into wrongdoing, 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 into wrongdoing. Into wrongdoing, into wrongdoing, into wrongdoing, into wrongdoing, into wrongdoing, into wrongdoing. Into wrongdoing, 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 into wrongdoing.
yeux. La vie se passe si je veux. Tout est bleu. Tout est bleu. Un peu de pluie, tout est fini. Et dans ce jour, tout est lourd. L'amour appelle nos âmes au ciel. Et pour nous deux, tout est bleu. Comment vous dire tout est bleu, ça passe par l'azur de mes yeux. Comment vous dire tout est bleu. On finit par aller là où les démons nous tendent. On finit par aller là où les démons nous tendent. Tout est bleu, tout est bleu. Oh, tout est bleu. Oh, tout est bleu, tout est bleu. Oh, tout est bleu.
Good morning. Good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be starting in 2 minutes. Can we just ask that Ngari, Dr. Furi, and Frida just come to the sound desk? Mr. Ngari, Dr. Furi, and Ms. Frida, just to the sound desk, please. Thanks.
Hi, ma'am. He's just gonna bring the mics up front. Okay. That's fine, ma'am. Telepathy, yes, ma'am. So all we are gonna do is that. You know, what's your name? Next. Nino, Alakhan, Anar, Alakhan है कि इंडिया उसका प्राइस? Iris what no? Ang sal tayo sa to kung ano sa sal. Iris what? Yeah. So the first three are gonna use these mics, eh?
Yes.
All right.
Can we start?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, start the video.
Streaming will open though.
Every collaboration starts with an introduction, a moment in time where the stars align at the right place, at the right time, and with the right people. It's the connections we make with one another that form the foundation upon which we build our future. Put simply, it's the start of something new. And when we take those first steps toward positive change, toward our hopes and dreams, we treat the connections we make with care. Because with years of experience, we've learned that the path we choose is not nearly as important as those who walk it with us. No matter the end goal, the trust we choose to put in others is the biggest investment we can make for our future. The Capricorn Group has been walking beside dreamers since 1982, connecting them with the right people and solutions to turn their ambition into opportunity. And it all started with an introduction. Capricorn, we are stronger together.
Now, often we ask ourselves, how can we as companies be responsible corporate citizens in our communities? How does that look like? What is community engagement? And the famous word, corporate social responsibility. I know we've heard that so many times. Now, if these are some of the questions you've asked yourself, you're in the right place. Because here, we have potential donors, and we're going to network. But most importantly, we're going to be connectors of is getting involved in the community. Now, that was the most serious part. Seeing that it is a lovely morning, it looks like it's going to rain, I want to do a roll call because you told your company you're going to be here. And if you're anywhere else but here, we're going to report you. We're going to report you. So I want to feel the positive energy from your side. So when I mention your company's name, you should make some noise. I want to feel you. So starting off with the Office of the President, are you here? Quiet, okay. We're going to talk to the big man. GIPF, are you here? NAMPOS, are you here? I like that. Bank of Namibia, are you here? Ah. Development Bank of Namibia, are you here? Pupkewitz. Anybody from Pupkewitz? O&L? Ah. NWR, are you here? TransNamib, are you here? Ooh, Trustco. And NAST, is somebody from NAST? Ah, Cyrus Capital. Ah, and Triple. Ah, I like the energy. Santam. Nice. Agra. Yeah. MVA Fund. Yeah. B2 Gold. Nobody. Ooh. Oh, okay, I see you, I see you. NetBank. Ah. What about Stouch Partners Architects? Right there. Do it for the kids in Namibia. Hey. Conrad Adenauer Foundation. Ah. Ministry of Health and Social Services. Okay, we got a problem. Imago de Poverty and Welfare CC. Right there. I like your pens. I think next you must stand up so that everybody sees your pens. You got really cool pens. He's wearing, I think, pink. Is it pink or orange? Gray. Thank you so much. Social Security Commission. Ah. Edulution. Ah. Nictus Holdings. Nice. Omnicare Trust. NHE. right there. And the most important organization that brought us here. And I want all of us to make some noise for Lithon and Capricorn Foundation. Now, you might be wondering, who recalls? She used to have these columns in local dailies. And I must really tell you, they made a huge impression on a number of us. They really assisted us in becoming a bit more aware of how to better use our finances. So I really want to call on stage, that is Marlies Horn, the acting head of the Capricorn Foundation, who's going to not only welcome us, but set the pace for this particular event. Marlies, please come on stage. Let's give a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Mufaro, for that introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us this morning. It is really my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the Capricorn Foundation as well as the Lithon Foundation to this breakfast session today. We will enjoy an insightful breakfast this morning where we will explore the NGO landscape, the needs of our communities, Namibia's social progression focus, and how we as companies can fulfill our role as corporate social citizens. I hope you are as excited as I am for today's much needed discussions and also hopefully solutions about how welfare and corporate social responsibility in Namibia can take itself to the next level. Allow me a few moments as the representative of the Capricorn Foundation just to give you a brief overview of our foundation. Officially launched only last year, July, we are a registered welfare organization. We received our welfare status only in April this year. We are a non-profit incorporated under Section 21 of the Companies Act, and we are funded by our Namibian subsidiaries. For those of you who don't know, Bank Windhoek is our flagship brand. They provide the most of our funding, but also Capricorn Asset Management and also Intrepo, who is also part of our group. Then Capricorn Group itself also provides administrative support to the foundation. So ultimately, the Capricorn Foundation acts as the vehicle for our group's corporate social responsibility initiatives. So ladies and gentlemen, the Capricorn Group's view can only invest in your communities if you have created profit for distributing to the communities. So for Capricorn Group, CSR refers to our sense of responsibility towards our communities where we operate and to integrate social concerns into our business activities. This helps us to be socially responsible, not only to ourselves, but also to our stakeholders. For us, corporate social responsibility really means doing the right thing for the right reasons. It is of note that the Capricorn Foundation do support government's Harambee Prosperity Plan for 2022 to 2025, and as you know, there are a number of pillars in the Harambee Plan, namely governance, economic advancement, social progression, infrastructure development, international relations, and cooperation. And we will also have a lady from the Office of the President joining us here this morning. From a governance perspective, the Capricorn Foundation also adopted a number of policies of our group in terms of anti-money laundering. So from a governance perspective, we also want to comply to the new Financial Intelligence Act that all the NGOs in Namibia have to comply with. Earlier this year, the Lithon Foundation and Bank Windhoek, our flagship brand, and the foundation hosted a very informative online workshop. I think it was in April, if I remember correctly, where we really discussed the ever-changing environment for NGOs, especially around COVID and the impact that COVID had on these welfare organizations to enable them to raise funds so that they can do the work in the communities. But today we are really taking a different approach, and we've brought together like-minded organizations. All of you were listed by our MC, so that we really can share how we as responsible corporate citizens can even make a bigger impact, because the needs are really great. I don't know about you, but at Capricorn Group and at Bank Windhoek, we really are flooded with a number of requests on a daily basis, ranging from food insecurity to education. So the needs are really great, and the resources are scarce. So how do we really make sure we apply the scarce resources to where it will make the biggest impact? So, ladies and gentlemen, CSR is what is bringing us here together today. It's a community engagement concept, and like I said, you can only really make an impact in the community if you have created economic value. So by giving back to the communities, you can really make a positive impact in the communities in which you operate. A group like us operate throughout Namibia, in all corners of Namibia. We've got Bank Windhoek, I think, has got 55 branches. So when we look at community involvement, we need to look beyond Windhoek and really see how we can make a positive impact across Namibia. So the key is for us as companies here today is really to put our efforts and resources together where it matters most. And I really hope that today will be an opportunity for us to unpack some of the challenges that there are, and that, you know, going forward we can look at increased collaboration amongst like-minded organizations, and that we can really make a difference and a positive impact, and therefore being true connectors of positive change. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you find it very informative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marlies, for that. When I got here, I had an opportunity to interact with some of the audience members. And I had the opportunity to actually meet our next speakers. And I introduced what you're going to be talking about has got more power, because not only are they a partner to today's event, but they have got the biggest database of NGOs. So if you're looking to support any NGO, I want you to go to them after they've given their presentation. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Adrian Krobler and Marcia Reed from Lithon Foundation. Yes.
Is it red? Oh, good. Adrian, thank you for managing the clicker. Good morning, all. I'm a storyteller. Let me just get here so you can see me at the back. I'm a storyteller. Adrian, you need to give me Ebenhard. Click. Click, click. I would like you to meet Ebenhard this morning. Ebenhard Repandu is not there. He is. Isn't that an amazing face? He's an incredibly gifted young man. He's got an applied arts diploma. That means he is creative much more than I am. He is skilled in photography, in graphics, logo designs, all that fancy stuff that my generation doesn't understand and can't do. And in 2016, he founded the Namibia Association of Wheelchair Users, because in 2007, he was in a terrible accident, and which damaged his spinal cord so badly that he will never be able to walk again. When we met him in 2019, 3 years after he started the foundation, the organization was going a downward spiral. And it was because, after 3 years, your very enthusiastic board of directors start getting busy with their own lives, because we are all busy. The funds that was promised didn't materialize. The hopes was going down. He was overwhelmed, fighting for, advocating the rights of disabled people, the needs they have, and he was really at a very low point. And As we believe in Africa that it takes a village to raise a child, at Lithon we believe that if we want to make a significant impact, we've got to do it through networking and collaboration. So we were fortunate enough to know people. I know people, and people know people, so it's not me, it's the people. We connected him with Elise, a psychologist, for career guidance, just with his future studies. Through that connection, she motivated him to contact Fresh for an internship. He is now earning a salary. He's receiving mentored guidance, and he received a bursary to study at NETS, doing his 4-year theology degree. We had him enrolled in NID, Namibia Institute for Democracy. They present courses for social impact organizations, how to run the organization's basic stuff. Listen to this magic. At that meeting, he met Salvation Army, who introduced him to the Rotary Club, who introduced him to the British Wheelchair Association that was at that stage visiting Namibia with 20 wheelchairs, not knowing who to give it to. So now that is happening every year. We also introduced him to Willem, a retired engineer. I know engineers, they always have plans. So with the engineer, they have made 9 videos of gadgets. And this is to help people in wheelchairs to do things and make things at home, like a kettle tipping device. If your hands are disformed, you can't make yourself a cup of coffee at home. And they are also planning a workshop where they will learn unemployed wheelchair users how to repair wheelchairs. MVA, through NID, MVA also connected with him, and they asked him to readdress their trauma training and also their focused rehabilitation program for people who are disabled in motor vehicle accidents to be reintroduced back into the workforce. From a few connections. So if magic happens when you have the time to listen and to clearly understand what is the needs and what are the challenges they are being faced with. My name is Marsha, I'm the CEO of Lithon Foundation. Our purpose is to make a positive and significant impact in the lives of people. We have a very interesting work ethic that we balance our work and our involvement in the community in a pretty particular way, and I would like to hand that over to Adrian to explain better.
Thank you, Marcia. Let's swap. Thank you, Marcia. I think you'll all agree, Marcia, I call her the Mother Teresa of Namibia, because the things that she's doing and busy doing is amazing, and the network she's being built. So, Marcia, just appreciation for the leadership and what you're doing for Namibia as a whole. As Marcia said, our purpose as a business is to make a significant and positive impact in the lives of people. And we do that by both the work we do, the physical impact, but also the social impact. And that's what we've been doing for the last 19 years. We've been building infrastructure, buildings and stuff. But parallel to that, we've got a very big social impact that we run. And in 2014, we formalized our foundation, Lithon Foundation, to actually do this better and stronger. If the next slide can come up. So there's a saying that we all know, practice what you preach. And I hope today what we will be doing is a bit different. That we will be preaching what we practice, if the slide can go. So we want to preach what we practice. And I think this is something that I want to share with you and to give you some context of what we do as a business. As I said, we're an engineering group of companies. I want to show you a short 50-second video. And in the video, you'll also see what our slogan is, which is building people, building communities, building nations. And if you talk about building, it's physical and social. So just to give you some context, companies is we do projects, and there it disappears again. So we do engineering projects. We're a group of companies that focus on engineering, development and investments in all the different sectors of the economy. And the typical stuff we do is, there's a problem with the pointer. So what we provide is project services from end to end, project transaction services, PPP transaction services, multidisciplinary engineering service, procurement, construction management, administration, and more recently also business consulting services to optimize businesses. Next. So we also invest ourselves in projects, and this is something we recently started. We established the Lithon Impact Capital because we saw the need to create projects. We also need to invest in that, and that is something we are very excited about. Next slide, perhaps. So our group structure, just to explain to you how it all fits together. So we've got a holdings group, which I'm currently busy managing from my side. Lithon Project Consultants on the left is run by Gert Maritz. Gert is sitting also there in the States. Gert, if you can raise your hand quickly. So Gert is the CEO of Lithon Project Consultants. We've got Lithon Developers, and we're in the process of establishing an urban development fund to build cities and towns in Namibia and also Africa. Lithon Impact Capital is a recent project through which we want to invest and create projects to stimulate economic growth, and through that also to combine that with social impact. And then one of our biggest dreams is to establish a Lithon Academy one day to also to coach and train people, what we're also doing through the foundation at the moment. The Lithon Foundation then fits into the group, so all our social impact is done then through the foundation and not through the company. So we've got companies in Ghana, in South Africa, Namibia, and Botswana recently, and developers, and the rest is in Namibia at the moment. I also want to explain to you our business model. If you could put the next slide, please. So our business model in the picture, if I can put that, I saw this picture and I thought this is a good way to explain to people what we do. So the first thing is, so we're a purpose-driven, value-based company. So we try to balance purpose, and the next slide, with our profit. And there's a saying, no profit, no purpose. And that's a mistake that we made from the beginning. We were so involved in social activities, sometimes you forget to think about the business. So it's a fine balance, and that you do through all your processes in your business, which is then done by the people, the next one. And it's the people that makes the impact, the next slide, please. And that's what we try to do. Through our focus as a business, we want to use our people that we've got, all our associated partners, and the network that we've been building, and together. And imagine if more companies can come together, and we can become the stones, in a biblical term, perhaps the living stones that we need to be to make this ripple effect in our countries. So we've got 7 core values, but today I want to focus specifically on our last value, which is generosity. And we specifically choose this word for a specific reason. So we say it's expressed through focused investment. And that's something that we from our side have over the years seen. I think we should change the words from giving to investing. And I think through the morning also, the Nation Builders video that will be presented, they also use the same terminology. I think there's a mind shift. People don't need money. And to start to give away money and unplanned, uncoordinated, we should see corporate social responsibility as an investment that we're making, where there's a specific return, sometimes in financial returns, sometimes in social returns. And for us as business people, the next slide explains actually, if you look at the spectrum of capital, you get, on the left side, you get your traditional philanthropy type of investments, where good people like many of you will be passionate about something, and you will just give away money. You don't want to get anything back, and you just want to see that your money is doing good. The problem with that side of the spectrum is that there's not enough money to fix the world. So there's a shift in the world to the right side. Obviously, it's a typical, if I can call it, a capitalist approach, where it's all about maximizing financial returns. And I think most of you, especially in the banks, are seeing the shift towards more the center of the spectrum of capital, where there's what we call a social impact investing. And then there's also impact first or a financial return first. So I think as businesses, we should start to rewire our brains to say, but you know, if my social responsibility is going to make an impact, first of all, I want to invest responsibly. I want to see that my money is making a significant impact in people's lives. And sometimes we should also think at new models. You know, instead of giving away money, let's invest it. There's exciting new products like social impact bonds, where a business can invest in. So you keep the NGO that's giving the money responsible. There should be a type of return, either through government payments or other people paying back. And that is something that I would like us to also engage, to think about. So if you're interested in some of these ideas, let's come together and talk. But Marcia, I think from our side, Lithon side, you've seen the need, you know, and we've been, since the first start, we've been involved, like in Oshikati, those years, we helped to establish ONTE. We also started with Petinshimi, which is still running. We invested, but not only financially. We assisted them to start a company. We assisted them to give mentorship and training. Oshikati Life Center, that Gert is also quite involved. We helped to establish that, but also to sit on the trustees to establish them. And through the years, we've been involved in organizations. So perhaps you can share with us some good stories and what we're doing and what is happening out there with organizations, because sometimes the last thing they need is money.
Yes, fantastic. See, if he is the investor, the business people, they talk a lot. We are the implementers. We do a lot. So I've got a couple of people sitting here with me that I know in Illusion, you guys, we are all doing, and it's great. We can't do it without the investors. And I think that's what we're trying to do here, is to show you that for us to address the need, we need to work together. The need has always been massive, and due to COVID, it has increased. It's multiplied. The resources has been halved because of financial constraints, and we can say that from Lithon's side as well. And how do we manage that? How do we balance that? The only way, Adrian, if I listen to you, you're talking about investing results, making an impact. Sustainability. For me, that is only possible in a partnership. So I would like, in a partnership, almost like a marriage, boy meets girl, take the boy to the family to meet them. So I would love from my side, if I was the implementer, to invite the investors, say, please come to my center, please come with. But then I would also like to come and visit your company. And I would like to meet your staff, because you are sitting with so much resources that we lack. And that's why we can't do what we have to do effectively, because we need that from you. And this is a model that is also promoted by Nation Builders. As Adrian mentioned, we've been partners with them for quite some time, is that we then sit around a table and we draw up a contract. A marriage without a contract is destined for trouble. Because I need to know, what are you going to give? How are you going to give it? And what is your limits? I need from my side to confirm and create trust with you to know that I'm going to use that resources for what I'm going to use it and how am I going to reporting back. And after the contract is signed, communication, you know, marriage without communication. So that for me is very important, Adrian. And we would like our business people to think differently. In the old times, the marriages was, the breadwinner was here. He will determine what happens in the house. We need to change that with us, our relationship as well. We need to be equal partners, because I know nothing about business. That's your job. I know a lot of people who knows how to pick up a child born with cerebral palsy, that you pick that child up without breaking a bone. I know of a lady that feeds 150 children every day with a potato peeler that the bottom is off and she's got a little carton. You can't do that. We know people, I've got stories of amazing people out there really making an impact. They just need help.
Yeah. I think, and as Marcia said, you know, as business people, we went through the grinding mill. You know, Lithon, we're a 19-year-old startup, and I'm not joking when I say this. It took us 19 years to come where we are now. We're still refining our process, and to run the business is not so easy to run a business, keep it profitable, keep the reporting in place. And now we expect from NGOs, or what we call social impact organizations, I want to see your accounting statements, I want to see your report back. I mean, these people are passionate about doing things and implementing. They don't have the skills. So more than money, what they need is support, technical support to assist them and to drive it from there.
Absolutely,
We've got
Adrian.
a sign from Grace. He said,
Yep, we're
time
done.
up.
We're going to say we must make sure by understanding the social area that we get involved with, our helping can hurt. It can hurt the investors and it can hurt the implementers. So we need to understand. Thank you.
I must say that presentation was absolutely wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, please give them a proper round of applause. And earlier on, Marcia invited me for a coffee, and I told her that I'm a tea drinker. She took insult to that. I don't know why, but we'll certainly be meeting to have that coffee. And I could see the gentleman to my right was smiling when she was talking about marriage, so also be coming for marriage counseling as well. Now, our next speaker, she's all the way in Ghana. I think if anything the last 2 years have been able to teach us is we can actually connect, whether like this or through digitally. And I must also really congratulate the Capricorn Foundation because they mentioned to me that this is their first face-to-face event. So you are really special to them for them having invited you. So we're going to be having a presentation from Desiree Matthias, who's the Presidential Advisor on Youth Matters and Enterprise Development. She's going to be looking at Namibia's social development focus areas. So Desiree, I hope you can hear us. How are you doing, Desiree? The beauty about technology.
Good morning, Mufaro. I'm right here.
Thank you so much. You can take it away.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, and good morning, everyone that is in the room. I should begin by congratulating the Capricorn Foundation for taking the lead in convening us all here today, and also to all the different representatives of the business sector who have come together for the common good. I think convergence is always so exciting, and definitely government is the biggest social enterprise. Our triple bottom line is social progression, it's peace, it's unity, it's social cohesion. And I believe we have a critical mass of stakeholders in the room today who care about the communities that we serve and driving tangible improvements in the lives of all Namibians. So I thank you. Thank you very much. Greetings from a warm and humid Ghana. Apparently I brought the rain in Accra upon arrival yesterday. My presentation today will give you an overview of the government's development planning framework, specifically taking a deep dive on the Harambee Prosperity Plan 2 and the social impact agenda contained within that document. In terms of government planning, the HPP2 is currently the prioritized plan of government. It consists of short to medium-term goals and also strategic actions that are very specific to the community, to the implementing ministry, and to the budget item that we need to execute over the next 4-year period. Our intention is to accelerate and to fast-track our development and to engender an economic recovery that is both inclusive and shared. The HPP1 is part of the country's development planning framework. Although it's an impact plan, it's still supporting the work of government to reach Vision 2030 and to achieve our ideal of shared prosperity. So it's a continuation of the first HPP, building on the good work that we have started then. But it also mainstreams the key pillars of the National Development Planning Cycle. As you are aware, we're currently concluding NDP 5, which ran from the period of 2017 to 2022. And this would be the precursor to NDP 6, which is currently in review and formulation. The NDP6 will take a more transformative role in development planning, really looking at how to restructure the economy so that we're able to create more opportunities for prosperity that is broad-based and including the mass population. The NDP5 is constructed on exactly the same pillars as the HPP2. We consider these to be the critical success factors. And of course, in terms of development planning, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals have all been mainstreamed into our strategic goals and actions as a country. In fact, in 2016, President Geingob declared all-out war against poverty and made the bold commitment to eradicate poverty in Namibia by 2030. And we were one of the first signatories to sign the Sustainable Development Goals. So for all intent and purposes, what you will see in the HPP2 directly relates to the NDP5 as well as the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, in terms of the construct of the HPP2, the first pillar is effective governance. And effective governance is really about improving the quality of public services, the public good to the populace. This process has been informed through bottom-up planning. We've had the people of Namibia consulted. You've seen the president doing town hall meetings and consulting these regional stakeholder consultations to really understand what the issues are and to ensure that what matters is what has been prioritized by government. So this is a product that responds to the aspirations, the lived realities, and the needs of the Namibian people. So I'm not going to dwell too much into these particular pillars because our focus today is on the social agenda. But I do believe the economic advancement pillar is really important to the social agenda because this is the pillar that wants to engender an economic recovery and contains the main aspects of our economic recovery program. The principle that I would like you to take away from government's approach this time around with regards to engendering an economic recovery is to crowd in as much private sector participation as possible. We recognize that our growth and recovery agenda must be private sector led, and we count on that investment from industry. We're looking to unlock new investments to strengthen government's fiscal position and also to unlock new frontiers of growth because of the effects of COVID-19. We can do this by better stewarding our natural resources, by better leveraging our public assets, by increasing productivity of key economic sectors, which includes saving the businesses that are already open through business rescue, but also stimulating agriculture. Finally, we recognize that there are new engines of growth, and we're positioning our blue and green economies as those new frontiers that can create new growth in industries for us. You have seen that Namibia is on an agile sprint with our green hydrogen proposition as a very strategic bet, and we believe in new sources of capital into the country. We want to leverage public-private partnership because we think that there is definitely space for more innovative approaches by government and private sector to collaborate. This meeting is an innovation, and I think it's just the beginning of how we are doing things differently. Social progress is red. It's red because it's central to government's war on poverty. It's red because of the priority that the president attaches to social progress. And it's red because this is the one that talks to the heart of, the lived reality of Namibians. This is the bread and butter issues. We're addressing the social deficits. We're looking at poverty, inequalities, the disparities in income and wealth in our country, and really it's about dignified life. This is the pillar that responds to the basic needs for survival and ensuring that there is quality of life for all Namibians. I am the pillar lead champion for social progress, and I'll be taking you into a bit of a more detailed presentation overview on what exactly we want to achieve in this chapter a little later. Infrastructure is an enabler, and I'm not going to delve too much into that, but these are fundamental. You need energy, you need water, you need logistics and transport connectivity and information communication technologies in order for us to drive development. And Namibia is not operating in a vacuum. We're part of the international global community. And we're working this time around, not on traditional diplomacy, but economic diplomacy, so that we can really present our domestic policy to the world and attract investors that resonate with our ideals. Now, for the purpose of this presentation, I would like to give you an overview of social progress, because this is the area that is most relevant to our discussion today. Our first goal is to arrest hunger poverty. We don't want Namibians to die from hunger. You have seen our response during the drought, that government reallocated resources towards the drought relief program. And we're one of the few countries in Africa that are able to meet communities that are adversely affected by the drought by providing at least some food relief. In urban areas, you've seen the work that we've been doing with the food bank, but admitting that COVID-19 has caused such a reversal on the gains that we have made and has left so many households even more vulnerable because people have lost jobs and livelihoods. So some of the activities under here, and we've tried as far as possible to just quantify the requirement from government so that you have an appreciation of the size of the commitment. School gardens are so important in our school feeding program. If we learned anything, the children, when they were away from school during the lockdown, they became food insecure. That daily meal that government gives is so important to the development of the Namibian child, but it's not nutritional enough because of storage constraints. We're working with the schools to establish school gardens so that they can diversify the sources of nutrition. This is an area that you could actively get involved in. I would advise for every private sector representative who's in the room that you consider a regional approach so that you can champion a region or a community at a time. ECD is also really important. The president has made a bold commitment to extend the school feeding program, not only at primary school, but also to the early childhood development. And this is because the fundamentals need to be in place. And we're seeing that child and malnutrition in Namibia is still too high. There are many children who are at risk of starvation. We would also consider subsidies for our community volunteers who are responsible for the school feeding program because of the size of the demand across the country. The second burning issue in the country is land, access to urban land, housing, and sanitation. This is our second goal. We want Namibians to be able to live dignified lives by providing the basic need of shelter. We've made a commitment as government to service 24,000 erven over the period, but this is government's contribution and does not include any additional contribution from private developers or from the private sector. In this regard, we think that we could really revolutionize our delivery modalities for urban land. The cost to service an erven could be 350,000 per erf, and make a commitment in a certain town, local authority area to service a number of erven. This could really unlock the delivery of housing because service land currently is the bottleneck. If COVID-19 has taught us anything, it is the importance of hygiene, sanitation, and access to water. The communities that were most adversely affected, even by hepatitis E, are the ones who have got sanitation challenges in our informal settlements. Government is driving, do outreach programs on behalf of government, and they provide services like prenatal care, postnatal care. They identify communities that are at risk of starvation, malnourished children, pregnant or lactating mothers, and they either bring them closer to the facilities or they take the supplements, the food, the nutrition, and the medication to these communities. This is a need that should be strengthened, and I believe we could do it collaboratively with the private sector as well. Secondly is improving our fourth goal is to improve the quality of public education and sport. In this regard, again, with COVID-19, the need for proper sanitation was so pronounced. We've made a commitment to construct 1,075 ablution facilities across the country, or 4,300 per year over the period. This is government's contribution based on the resources that we have. We think that we could double this amount if we're able to hold hands with private sector. We know the schools, we know the communities and the need. It's just about mobilizing the resources. The same, because of the size of our country, hostel block accommodation, learner accommodation is so key, especially in the deepest, most remote parts. Children who have to walk 10, 20 kilometers to get to school. We've seen the images in the media of children setting up informal structures so that they can be within proximity to schools, is because of the challenge of learner accommodation. And we think that if we could construct hostel blocks to accommodate up to 24 learners, we can do this at a cost of 375,000 per block of 24. So this is quite attainable. We have also made a commitment to connect up to 50 schools to the main water pipeline as government. This amount could be doubled. Over the period, it will be 225, but I'm pretty sure that if we put resources and capacities together, we can reach more. Classrooms, the national backlog for our classrooms is 5,361 classrooms that we need. In terms of the resources available this year from the Ministry of Education, we can the need, and we believe that by constructing one classroom at a cost of 520,000, including the furniture, we could really assist to help the Namibian child to access a quality education. Government also with COVID has learned the importance of digital inclusion, and we are facilitating access to technology, to devices, and to the internet by procuring devices for both the learners and the teachers to help with e-learning and e-teaching. We are currently procuring up to 80,000 devices. On your screens there you can see the specific numbers, and we think that we'll be able to reach more with your contributions. Of course, this is a drop in the ocean if you look at the total size of Namibia's school-going population, but we are prioritizing senior secondary schools at this stage. Educarers, in terms of our early childhood development framework, all the current 3,300 ECD centers in the country are community owned. They're not owned by the government. So improving and enhancing the quality of our ECD is really up to the quality of the educarer. We do subsidize the educarers as a government. I think we subsidize up to one educarer per community center. But there's a critical shortage, and we would appreciate your support to recruit and to subsidize more educarers who earn approximately 1,500 per month. So this could be a real improvement to that sector. We have also established not we, but government is collaborating with the Association of Unemployed Artisans. We've taken a very innovative approach where we are giving our trained artisans preferential procurement opportunities to help government with the maintenance and the refurbishment of dilapidated government infrastructure. For example, we have yielded to them the Oshakati Hospital, the Tsumeb Hospital. And while government has made a commitment to pay for the labor of $2 to $3 million so that we are able to renovate and to rehabilitate some of the key infrastructures across the region and create meaningful employment opportunities for our young people. By this time next year, we will also be running a national internship and apprenticeship program across the country. We will have to structure it together with industry to see what will work, how we can incentivize it, but your contribution and participation by intaking some of our cohorts, creating work integrated learning opportunities for our young people. Cooperative education is so important to help our third, fourth year, final year students to transition from institutions of higher learning into industry. The fifth, workers who are the first have to train more police officers to not only be youth friendly, but to be victim oriented and able to respond is a tangible contribution that can be made. We also have got gender-based violence protection units. These are the safe shelters where women can run to. Unfortunately, they are not operational, and this is because they are in need of renovation and refurbishment, and also physical manpower, social workers to to operate them in the regions. The infrastructure exists, and we think that if we can revive them, this would go a long way in helping and serving those communities and those women at their most vulnerable hour. This is quantified at a cost of approximately $10 million per gender-based unit, and as government, we can indicate exactly where they are and what plans have been created for their renovation. The third and final one is government will not be able to arrest GBV and violence against children. So we recognize that our role is facilitative. We have to strengthen the capacities of our communities so that they can take a community-based management approach, so that they can create shelters or to strengthen the existing shelters that are already in our midst. And we think that a job for the communities. So amount real need for young people. We have about 17 multi-purpose centers across the country through our Ministry of Youth. And there is need to repurpose these multi-technology access to facilities and also just to problem solve in a group setting. So I think a private sector collaboration in this area can be fostered to bring technology and innovation resources closer to the grassroots communities. Another aspect as we enter the fourth industrial revolution is the readiness of our populace. Digital literacy, digital skills is key, and there is a public education imperative so that we can enable our people to use the online systems that as we digitize and digitalize services, either government or private sector. The cultural creative industries have been so adversely affected by the pandemic over the last 2 years. It is important that we take a deliberate and a targeted approach to create opportunities for our CCI. We do have a proposal on the table. The bill is 2.5 million people, 2.5 million Namibian dollars. The impact would be felt across all the stream. If you are interested, you're able to approach me in my capacity as the youth advisor, and I'll present the concepts and to the relevant implementing agencies of government. And finally, the internship program, I think, would be revolutionary by creating cooperative education opportunities. My last slide is what we're going to do differently. We've learned a lot of lessons over the last 6 years in driving a targeted impact plan. And we learned that you have to establish performance delivery units within government that is managed on sound project management principles that will track the execution, implementation of all our projects, and that will really help government to augment institutional capacity and to transfer those skills. And in this regard, we've entered into a partnership with Monjila and Lithon Consultants, who are providing this performance delivery unit service under the presidency and reporting directly to the advisors and to the president on a monthly and quarterly basis. My colleague Scott Richards is in the room, and he will be able to assist me with any follow-up responses after this presentation. This brings me to the end of my intervention, and I once again thank you for the convergence and coming together for the common good. This really is the DNA of social enterprise, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Desiree. And are there any questions that would like to ask, or can we proceed? Grace is my boss. Do we proceed? Any questions? No questions. But what I can make a comment on is that there are plans, and you can see that the government has plans. What they need is your assistance to make sure that these plans are able to be realized. So Desiree, thank you so much, and enjoy Ghana, and bring some rain when you come back from that side. Now, the next presenters, they sort of had me think about a story. So about 2 weeks ago, my son and I were at Grove Mall. So we got out of the car, and then there was a gentleman that approached us. He says, can you give me $5? So then I asked my son, I said, Mashua, can you please get $5 and give the gentleman? So my son looks at me and just, okay, fine. Takes the $5, gives it to me, I give it to the gentleman. Then later on, he says, Daddy. And I said, what? Mommy told me, these people that you're giving $5, they're not going to buy bread. They're going to buy something else. And I said, what is that? I'll leave it to you to think about that. Now, I want to call on stage Ngari Shiamba from Edgelution, Dr. Fury van der Berg from Imago de Poverty and Welfare, and Frida Muteka from Omnicare Trust. If my son was here, you'll be able to understand the relationship between a donor and a charity and how that is supposed to be harnessed. Please, may come on stage. Yes, you may have a seat. Will you be starting? Yes, you can go ahead. Okay. Thank you, President. Yeah, Annie.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? You good? I am Gary Chiamba. I'm the program manager for Edulution. Edulution is an educational technology company. Edulution is just the abbreviation of education and revolution together. So we're trying to revolutionize the way learners learn in Southern Africa. Currently, we have a big problem. And the problem that we're trying to solve in Namibia is the fact that there is a high level of dropouts in the country. The impact of COVID-19 meant that there are various examples in relation to the reasons why learners did not return when schools were locked down. The numbers from the Ministry of Education, we had about 3,000 to 5,000 learners who got pregnant. So Edulutions that contribute to learners being more heavily engaged in the learning process, particularly those that are in the rural areas. You'll be seeing a few of our slides, some of the learners, some of the coaches that we are, that are actually making the change on the ground and actually contributing to the positive impact that we are trying to achieve. In Namibia, currently we're operating 13 centers with Commerce and Hadab region being the key focus, 10 centers in Karutura, 1 center in Groot-Oop, and 3 centers in Rehoboth. We are hoping to expand towards the north, which is where the majority of Namibia's population is and where the greatest need is also. Across sub-Saharan Africa, we began in 2015 in Zambia, where the program there has had a massive impact in defining and changing the way learners in grades 4 to 7 actually, have a positive impact in regards to mathematics and literacy. In the current climate, we are operating in 3 countries. We have Zambia, Namibia, and we recently started in South Africa. We have a total of 15,000 learners that are currently receiving the positive impact that the program is bringing. In Namibia, we have 3,200 learners that we are impacting at the 13 schools that we operate, with a target of 240 at each school. So what do? Edulution Namibia runs an after-school numeracy training program where learners have a catch-up ability to have the tablets that we bring to them loaded with numeracy training software. I don't know if any of you have heard of Khan Academy. Do any of you know that program? It's a free program on YouTube and very accessible. And we utilize that information. We bring it in a form that is aligned to the Namibian curriculum. We have 5 levels where learners can start at each level, and each level is a representation of 1 year worth of content. So a learner can start at level 1, but they don't stay there. When they pass the pre-test and they can go to level 2, for instance, they can learn at their own pace. If an advanced learner is in a school system, they are forced to sit in a class and actually observe the content that is actually there, and they're not able to advance at their own ability or their own pace. That is the advantage that Edulution brings to the learners that are on the program. Last year, at St. Barnabas Primary School, there is a school that is in Karutura. We had 10 learners that received the highest marks at the school. 7 of those learners were part of the 100%. Full marks. And what an achievement to that. So this is some of the changes that really bring us joy and have a great, satisfaction for individuals who are in the NGO sector. I'm going to share a little bit of what Marcia said about the giver and receiver relationship and make some contributing notes there. But we have been in Zambia since 2015. We came to Namibia in 2019. We're now in South Africa in 2021. We opened 13 centers already in 1 year. The year is not even over. They're already at the same level that Namibia has been able to achieve since 2019. What an achievement. A proof and a fact that COVID-19 is not really a barrier for this program. Education is there and is needed, and it changes lives. So, how about Namibia? We are now at a point where in September, we successfully concluded an independent evaluation. What does that mean? It means that we took the learners that are on our program, tested them on the same test with the learners that are not on the program. This is only stage one. Next year, September as well, we're going to do the same thing. This will give us a gauge in relation to how effective the program is actually impacting the learners that are here. And does it actually work? So those independent results are going to be shared in November, and we're going to share that across all of our stakeholders and all of our sponsors or anyone who's interested in getting the information in relation to how impactful we are. Number two, what makes us unique? We are a mobile learning platform. We can move and adapt to the current situation and scale up very quickly. So we utilize, the key part of our impact really is our coaches. We train them for about 3 to 4 months, and they are empowered in such a way that they are able to manage and run centers independently in an entrepreneurial spirit. So these are unemployed youth that are, highly incentivized to get the numbers in the room. We talked about the learners running away from schools. If you have a youth who's already dedicated to know that every single seat that comes into that room, he is going to get a financial benefit from, and he's going to have a direct impact in the lives of that learner. We have 45 tablets at each school, each center, and each session lasts for 2 hours, and it's run by 2 coaches. Why 2? Preferably, we like to pair them with a male and a female, just to bring a balance, but also to bring an element of accountability to the sessions and to our donors themselves, because now they know that there's someone who is always supervising and watching these young lives actually develop, and there's an element of accountability there that really works well for us. In Namibia, we have 29 coaches that we've been able to hire and hoping to train more in the coming future with your support. Edulution number 3 is highly scalable. Scalable in the sense that even during COVID, we are able to grow, but more importantly, that when there was that meant that we could not operate the way we used to operate. Initially, we started from 1:30 to 5:30 after school only. When COVID hit, parents were more sensitive in regards to how soon their children come home, because after they've been spending a month at home, they feel like, I'm used to this, my child being home, doing the chores, cleaning the table, doing all this cooking for me. So now coming at 5:30, not a possibility. What did we do? We reached out to the schools. We said, look, we need our learners to actually, stay as long as possible, but we know that after 3:30, they want to go home. The parents are complaining. The school came to us and said, come, we're going to adopt you into the school timetable. This has meant that the non-core subjects that were taken out of the reduction in the curriculum were given to Edulution. Just a greater form of unity and support from the Ministry of Organization, from the directorate level to the school, principals, the teachers who are passionate and want this program to succeed. So the support is there and it's achievable. When it comes to sustainability as well, currently we're doing a pilot stage. So it has been extended. It was initially planned for 2 years, but this is where the donor support is needed. Long term, it's definitely government. We want government to step in and say, we are going to support Edulution because this is the outcomes that you've had from the pilot stage. And the fact that you're spending about $13 billion every year. The government is spending $13 billion, and most of it, over 70%, is going to salaries. So we will tell them, hopefully with the data that we collect over this pilot stage, to say that, hey, we can do something better. We can align and support the teachers, the administrators, and find efficiencies and profitability in the way every learner achieves that level of outcome. So when we talk about the giver and the receiver relationship, So the givers are instrumental to the growth of any organization. As such, we rely on direct donor support in the pilot stages I mentioned before. And what doesn't get measured does not get done. So we use analytical tools to support and communicate to our donors directly, and they have access to those tools. So the data that we collect every single month, every 15 days actually, we share that directly with the donors. They can see at this center, this is the amount of learners, this is how much they came, how many times they came, this is what they scored. All those data analytical tools are there and accessible to them, and of course that monthly reporting and communication to the donors. As a receiver, it is often a challenge to do that, because you are in an NGO sector, and the passion and the love and the commitment and the fires burning here and there, you want to move and actually, distinguish them, and that takes time away to connecting with those that are actually making this project possible. So that is a challenge on the receiver side. So in conclusion, I love for you to go on our website, www.edulution.org, edulution.com, visit us on Instagram, Facebook, we're there. You can also find us on YouTube. And essentially, the biggest takeaway that I want you to have is really, I have a business card, I have a collection of them. Get my business cards, tell me, you want to visit a center, you want to see it on the ground, hold that tablet in your hand, experience it for yourself. Don't just let me and see me come here and talk about it. Come in and see those beautiful faces, those beautiful smiles, see them engage with the learners, and let that experience impact you as much as it's impacting me. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Gary Chiamba. Join me in my vision to revolutionize the way Africa learns by keeping learners in school, one learner at a time. But before I go, I want to say special thank you to Pupkewitz Foundation, to the First Rand Foundation, to O&L. These are our current local donors. I want us to give them a round of applause, but we need the rest of you to join us. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity of being here to represent Imago Dei, Article 21 company not for game, welfare organization registered. Imago Dei is the Latin for image of God, and God said, let us form man into our image, which happened, but that image got broken, scarred, and wounded by sin. And we are here today because of that. If we lived in a perfect world, then we wouldn't have been here today. COVID taught us a lot of new terminologies. Online meetings, team meetings, Zoom meetings. No, you're not going to remember even 3%, and it teach it to you. So I need everybody to have a glass with something in it, either cool drink or juice, or those that are coming here with their own little Starbucks stuff. I know they've got gin and tonic in it, so you can have that as well. All right, I want you to stretch it forward. And I want you to stretch your right arm forward. And now you bring these two together. And now you take it in your right hand and you drink it. This is what Imago Dei does. Bringing hands together. On the one hand, you have those that have what they have in their hands. It can be money, it can be funds, it can be skill, experience, it can be help. What happened yesterday is professionalism. Dr. Liat Patrick operated on a newspaper seller, eyes, and this morning, while I was running past him, which he wasn't supposed to be there because he was supposed to be in bed, but because he can't miss out one day. He was standing there with his stuff in his eyes. That guy will be able to see fully in 3 days' time. Hand that has to a hand that needed. That's basically what we do. So we convey resources, experience, skills, materials, funds, and we manage also corporate social responsibility of Capricorn, for instance. Because not all institutions and organizations have the luxury of having a department or a person appointed to administer that. So we are urging companies to outsource it to us so that we can, in cooperation with them, sit to see what do they have in their hands and what need, on the other hand, would they like to address, and then we bring them together. So we, as Imago Dei, have been in this business for the last 10 to 12 years. It flew out of my doctorate degree that I did in the USA, and we have been in this business really, really a long time. We've seen many mistakes being done with money, which is the worst thing that you sometimes can give to people that are gone into the sand. And many investors, many contributors have stopped doing that. Because firstly, they never get reporting back, and that's what makes Imago Dei unique, is that we have a team of volunteer people. Because Imago Dei, we are understaffed, especially in the times that we are in now, where the demands and the needs to us have 100-folded. But because we don't take money for ourselves, hands that need, and then we administer and we monitor and we give feedback and we are involved. But we also empower them, because many of these projects are great initiatives, but they are not structured correctly. So we help them with a business plan. We help them to form the right structures in applying for a WO number or to start as an Article 21, to help them getting a board there, get their finances in order, shifting CAs and business people over to them to help them to see how they must manage their finances well. Because in the end, Imago Dei doesn't want them to be needy of this hand anymore, but to be self-sustainable, to can drink for themselves, to find ways that they can continue. Because so many of the good projects, because they have not done it correctly, the donors withdrew, and then that project just died. So then we have to run again to you, knock on doors, asking, please give us money, because this is a really, really, really good project. So what our future entails is that we really want to move into a new direction, with due respect to the educational people here. We have found over the last 2 years, through Cambridge University Press and Cambridge University curriculum syllabus, which the Namibian syllabus is based upon, that they have found 2 statistics that are terrible. One, Namibia is the country in the world that scores the lowest of all. We have the lowest reading culture in the world. Our people don't read. They have put a digital platform with 165 books for grade 10 to 12 subjects on a platform, making it available to Namibians so that we can uplift our reading culture. Not secondary, ministry, or schools are interested. It just shows you there's no need. We don't want to learn. We don't want to read. So Imago Dei wants to go into the vocational training, big time. More than 20,000 grade 10s fall out every year, as he said. They don't go back. Not to NAMCO, because it's academic again, it's reading again. We need to train people with the hands, age to age, Because when you can work with your hands, you can work for yourself, you can be self-employed. And we have skilled young people here. So Imago Dei are screaming, please help us taking our hands for the way forward, because we have an amazing syllabus that are already there. We have experienced people that can work for themselves. So I hope that I have 30 seconds left. Can you believe it? We need money for ourselves so that we can build our own capacity, so that we can enlarge, so that we can have a bigger impact out there. And if you want to help us by giving your hand, please contact me. Otherwise, if you want us to administer your CSR, then one hand, other hand, bring it together. So, where is Imago Dei in this process? We are the arms that brings the hands together. Thank you.
Omnicare Trust. I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about our organization today for those of you who haven't heard about us before. So this local donor-funded NGO, we registered as a trust, and we provide healthcare solutions using mobile clinics. And upon clinic, so we only provide services which are within the scope of registered nurses, and all our nurses are retired nurses. Effectively, they have more than 100 years experience, so they know how to speak to our patients, they know their work, they're very, very experienced, very reliable, and that's why we opted to employ retired nurses. So as a donor-funded organization, we are a trust, and these are our trustees. You can see their names and their pictures. So we've got Alison Begley, who's our board chairperson. She's the representative of NMC, which is one of our donors. And then in finance and governance, we've got Lorica George. Healthcare services, we've got Dr. Vaya Dashirwa. We've also got HR and OD support, which is Zenobia Bierkes, who actually works for the Capricorn Group. And then we've also got another donor representative, Rivonia Kahivere from F&B. And then you've got me, the operations director, and my colleague Shani Yarman, who's sitting over there. She's the finance director. Okay. So just a brief history about our organization. We started in 2010, and this program was started by Farm Access Foundation, which is a Dutch NGO which was operational in Namibia at the time, to address the health needs of farm workers. And this is because obviously Namibia is a vast country, and farms are scattered all over, and we found that farm workers had issues accessing healthcare because they're so far from health to, drive to the nearest town, at the end of the month, etc. And obviously that is not sustainable if you're unwell. The other alternative is that the farmer would drive you to the nearest town, and sometimes that was a round trip of about 200 kilometers. So you can imagine that it gets quite expensive if you've got somebody who's sick, every week. So then in 2012, the Ministry of Health requested that we expand our services to the informal settlements in Okahanja and Windhoek, because they saw a huge need there, because these communities are from poor socioeconomic backgrounds, and they don't have the financial means to access the state facilities in and around Windhoek. In 2016, Farm Access unfortunately closed, and all the program and the assets were transferred to HealthWorks Business Coalition, which also closed in 2018, which is then when my colleague Shani and I then decided to establish Omnicare Trust and resume the primary healthcare services. Okay, so why mobile clinics? Basically, it's to provide regular, quality, preventative, and curative healthcare services to these communities who need them most. So what we do is we drive straight to a site in the informal settlements, and then the services are basically provided on the client's doorsteps. So they don't have to catch a taxi to access our services. They can just walk from their house and access the services and go back home. So basically the patients then have access to regular services and health education as well, which means that they can make better choices in terms of their health. And that would obviously then lead to improved health outcomes. And with our services, we've also seen the reduction in the cases of preventable communicable diseases and also the general improvement of the health of the said communities. Okay, so the impact of providing these primary healthcare services to the communities, it means that on a weekly basis, these communities receive quality healthcare. They reduce the amount of money they have to spend on transportation, which means that they can, use that money for other things, maybe like food. And these savings, as I said, can go to food and hygiene products. We also see a marked improvement in the general health of these communities. And then the babies and the children also receive their scheduled immunizations, protecting them from various diseases. And then the women receive oral or injectable contraceptives, which helps them make informed choices about family planning. So in terms of our current service offering, these are just some of the services that we provide. So routine anti- and postnatal care, family planning advice and supplies. We also counsel for we also provide counseling and testing for HIV, and in the near future we'll be providing ART, PrEP and PEP for those who are positive, or for those who are in relationships where one person is positive and they're trying to remain negative. So these are just some of the services that we offer. Okay, so in terms of staffing, so we have a total of 5 mobile clinics, 2 of which are currently being used for the primary healthcare program, and the remaining 3 are currently being used for the COVID vaccination program. So we are involved in that. We've been providing COVID vaccination, operate our vaccination clinic from Monday to Saturday every week. And just yesterday, we vaccinated a total of 319 people. So we're doing quite well in that regard. And we also provide this COVID vaccination service to companies whose employees don't, necessarily have the time. They don't take off the time to go and get vaccinated. So what we can do is we can come to your company, come with our nurses and our vaccinations, vaccinate you on site, and then you can go back to doing your work. So if there are any companies who are interested in that service, please feel free to reach out. So each primary healthcare clinic is staffed by 2 retired nurses and 1 community health worker, and a driver as well, who also acts as the administrator. So the driver registers everybody. He makes sure that the queue is well managed. The people then go into the consulting room, and they're seen by either a nurse or the community health worker who gives health education and testing and counseling services as well. So the nurses, as I said, are responsible for the primary health care, the driver does the registration of the patients, and then the community health worker gives health education and HIV testing and counseling services. So in terms of our statistics, we treat between about 60 to 90 patients per day, which is an average of about 1,600 patients per month, and that's Monday to Friday. 73% of our patients are female, and the rest, 27%, are male. So the majority of our patients are women over the age of 18, and then followed by children under 5. We don't really see that many people between the ages of 5 and 17. Mainly, I guess, because we operate during school hours, and maybe they seek services elsewhere. So the most frequent complaints are upper respiratory tract infection, diarrhea without blood, tonsillitis, muscle pain, and hypertension. So in terms of our donor partners, as I said before, we are a donor-funded organization with fully Namibian funders, and we've been operating since 2018, and this is just a list of our funding partners. So in 2018, we were funded by NMC. In 2019, B2 Gold came on board, and they stayed with us throughout 2020. And we were also joined by FNB Hope Foundation in 2020, and this year it's NMC and FNB. So in an effort to increase sustainability efforts, because obviously this is one of the biggest issues with donor-funded organizations, is sustainability. You can't rely on donor funding forever, and as we all know, Namibia has been classed as a middle-income country, so international donor funding has been on the decrease for many years. So what we do to provide or to increase our sustainability is we provide the very same primary healthcare services that we offer in the informal settlements to companies whose employees don't have medical aid. So this is mainly blue-collar workers, because these are actually state patients, and they also don't have the time to take off work every month to go and seek healthcare services, because sooner or later your leave day, your sick leave allocation will run out, and then it goes into annual leave, then it goes into unpaid leave, etc. And most of these people suffer from chronic conditions such as high blood pressure, and even though they're not physically sick, they do have to take a day off work every month to go and sit at the state hospital and get their prescription refilled. So what we do is then we come and park our clinic at your offices. The people who need to see a healthcare practitioner that day can come in, see the nurse, and then go back to work. So in terms of productivity, that helps a lot in terms of retaining productivity. So this is just a graph of our donor partners. So you can see for the companies, our sustainability efforts are currently at 3%. 69% of our funding is from donors, and then 28% is from the Ministry of Health. I would like to point out, though, that the Ministry of Health does not give us money. They give us the medicine and the sundry items, which obviously without we can't operate our clinic. Okay, and then the importance of a donor-NGO relationship. For us, trust is an integral part of this relationship. And we build trust by creating and maintaining a good relationship from the very beginning. This is done by being cognizant of the various steps in creating and building a good relationship with prospective donors, which starts by making a good first impression when we first meet them. And we also conduct detailed research into the focus areas of the various donors that we contact, and then try and tailor our proposals to align with that as far as possible. So once funding has been secured, we always agree with the donor on how the funds will be utilized, and then obviously we sign a contract to that effect, and then we ensure that we don't deviate from that contract without contacting the donor in advance and getting their full support for that. We also ensure that we maintain regular communication with the donor using whichever method is most appropriate for the donor. And then we also submit regular and detailed reports which are truthful and based on actual results, which are easily verifiable as well. And should there be any delays in our reporting, we always communicate with the donor timeously. Okay, then in terms of financial, because obviously our donors are giving us financial support, operating with integrity and honesty at all times relating to finances especially is very, very important to us. Our books are always open to our donors. They can come and take a look at any time. We submit detailed reports. I think we have B2 Gold here, Ignatius. He can attest to that. We do this by submitting annual financial statements as well, and then sending quarterly financial reports to stakeholders and donors as well. And even though it's not a requirement for us as a trust, we will be undergoing our first external audit this year, and we'll then be able to provide those audited financials to our donors. And going forward, this will then be done on an annual basis just to aid transparency as well. In terms of governance, we have SOPs and policies in place which are updated and reviewed on a regular basis, and our Board of Trustees also approve them. We also have checks and balances in terms of our financial transactions, including a two-step verification program for all transactions to ensure that there's a segregation of duties and it's not just one person that is involved. And then another trustee must then authorize the transaction. So then that means it's not just, it doesn't fall under upon the signed approval of all trustees, because the documentation that we submit to the banks shows who the trustees are. So whenever we open a new account, all of the trustees have to sign that letter. And we also then have separate bank accounts for each donor so that it's easy to track all the transactions for that particular program. Okay, then in general, so we regularly, obviously with donors, you know, they give you the finances, but they also then want, you know, it's for marketing purposes as well. They also want the community to know what they're doing with their funding. So what we do is we publish the names of our donors on our social media channels, and we also during any media engagement. As I said earlier, we funded at the moment by NMC and FNB. And the donors branding also appears prominently on our mobile clinics, which are on the road 5 days per week minimum. So obviously then when the clinics are driving around, everybody can see, who's funding these clinics. And we also display our donors branding at our sites using either gazebos or banners, which the donors give to us. We also ensure that we regularly maintain our assets to ensure the longevity of our trackers, which also then reduces the risk of theft and reduces our insurance premiums as well. Lastly, we operate in a fully transparent manner and often encourage the donors to visit both our offices and our operations in the field just to get a better understanding of the actual work that we do. One of our mobile clinics, and that's our office in the background. So we've got 3 of these 4-ton trucks, and then we've got 2 smaller Iveco mobile clinics, which were donated to us by NMC as well. And basically our goal is to bring healthcare closer to the Namibian nation. In terms of what we need as an organization, aside from funding, because sometimes donors don't necessarily have the funds, or it's not in line with their focus areas. So because we run mobile clinics and we live in a hot country, it does get quite hot when we're providing services. So one of the things that we spend quite a lot of money on is the air conditioning units in our mobile clinics. So our mobile clinics are fully equipped consulting rooms. We've got 2 consulting rooms in them. We've got running water and electricity. We've got examination beds. We've got a fridge. We've got aircon as well. So we could use help with, if you've got an aircon servicing company, you could perhaps then help us by, having our aircon service for free. Or because our clinics are on the road a lot as well, there's a lot of wear and tear, there's a lot of vehicle maintenance. One will go in for repairs today, and then we have to, park or use the other ones. We also go through quite a lot of tires and quite a lot of batteries. And because our clinics have been customized, sometimes we have to spend money on repairing the customization. Insurance cost is another cost for us, as well as medical and pharmaceutical supplies. I know I did say that the Ministry of Health does give us pharmaceutical supplies and all the medicine, but I think we're all aware that sometimes there are stockouts. Okay. I'm almost done. There are stockouts. So when there are stockouts, that does affect our service as well. And then we operate in the informal settlement. Sometimes we just go to an open space, which means that there's no shade. So our patients sit there in the hot sun, waiting for our services. So we could also, if there is anybody out there who is willing to, maybe provide us with gazebos, which are branded, obviously, and then that's a way to also show that your organization is supporting us. Lastly, for the companies, in addition to the primary healthcare services that we provide, we also provide wellness screening services. So we can come to your company and do, an HIV test, cholesterol check, blood pressure check, glucose check, etc. And then we also do food handlers and then health education on various topics. Thank you very much.
This is another success at Sophia's Soap Kitchen. So we planted the seed. Harvest will be plentiful.
We just finished planting carrots, tomatoes, and spinach. And we added a bit of phosphate and compost to enhance the growth.
In terms of the presentations that were given, I was pretty amazed. I don't know about you, but most of these organizations, I've never heard of them. And I was thinking to myself, imagine if I wasn't here, what I would have lost. So please give them all a huge round of applause. Now, next up, we're going to be having a panel discussion. And I would like to call on, that's Marlies Horn, to join me on stage, as well as Dennis Zaire from Konrad Adenauer Foundation, as well as Ignatius Auser from B2 Gold. Morning. Now, something that I must add before we start is that we're going to give an opportunity, that is to yourselves. If you've got any questions, we'll be willing to take them on. Now, just to get started, Marlies, obviously we've got so many needs that we've picked up. And one is always asking themselves as a corporate.
If you looked at Desiree's, plans as well, it is so widespread from education to health to food insecurity. So what we decided to do is to align or try to align the projects that we support to our skills and abilities at the group. We're a financial services group. We've got a long track record of entrepreneurship. We were established by entrepreneurs. So we have a very long track record of supporting entrepreneurs, and with that, education and job creation. So look at your organization's heritage. What makes your organization great? What skills and capabilities do you have in the organization?
Yes.
And that just makes it much more impactful when you support areas that you have experience in,
yes,
knowledge, expertise, etc. Because like many speakers said, it's not only about the money,
yes,
it's about what other support you can provide through your company.
No, thank you so much. Now, Dennis, with the experience that you've had, when you look at things, how much involvement?
Projects, but we also implement activities, and we work in all the regions across the country. So what we do, I think what we have actually come across, there are a lot of people and a lot of institutions that are out there in the communities that are not known, that do not have the infrastructure necessary, for instance, the ability to market themselves, the offices, the finance, and so on. But they are there, they are out there operating. And I think one critical component that is important is to network the donor community with the people on the ground. Mm-hmm. And I think with the experience that we have in the project implementation with the different organizations that we work with, we can serve as a bridge in terms of providing the information. And I think it's quite important that you have people like Marcia and Grace who are providing this platform where the donors can actually, or the potential donor from the private sector can actually meet the potential people in the CSOs that are there. So I think what I can also submit is that one critical component that we have come across in our project implementation, the kind of challenges that the civil society are going through has actually become even more since COVID has actually struck.
Yes.
And I think the different platforms that are there, for instance, is to work with the relevant authorities in the regions, the networking sessions, and I think through that a lot can actually be discovered.
Okay, no, thank you. Now moving on to Ignatius, I think this is one of the most critical things that, whether it's a donor or whether it's an NGO that's getting support, is how regular should you support it, and for how long?
Thanks.
Do we have a mic?
Mic is,
oh,
okay,
thank you.
now I'm on. Okay. Well, thank you for the question. I think, in order to answer that question, one must maybe establish, from the onset, a solution that is provided actually is what is needed within that context and within that community. And once you are able to identify with clearly spelled out outcomes, then it becomes easier for a donor organization like ourselves, for instance. Well, we're not a donor organization, but we do social investment. Then it becomes easier for us to determine, to what extent do we get involved and for how long should we stay in there. One of the things that we don't want to do is to simply just drop a project, but we would rather want to, as I've mentioned, work with specific outcomes and see at the end of the day whether we've been successful in achieving those outcomes, and also determine whether it's now time to exit or if we should upscale the project. And I think one of the important elements also to this is partnerships, to make the project sustainable and make sure that if one partner or one donor organization is going to pull out, that the project is still able to continue as long as the need and the objective still exist, then the project must continue.
Let's talk about sustainability, because this is critical. It doesn't help that we come and we seek assistance from the Capricorn Foundation, and then after 3 years, you sort of leave us and we're back in the deep end. How do you ensure sustainability for the projects that you're involved in?
I think that it adds to what he said. When you support an organization from the outset, you need to look at the, is it addressing a real need? Is it a project that can become sustainable? Because you can't only rely on donor funding for an indefinite period. And we've had instances where we got involved in projects and we ended up supporting them for many, many, many years because they became so reliant on us, and we couldn't withdraw our support, because if we did, they would fall flat, and then a lot of people would have been very negatively affected. So what we're trying to do now is really from the outset make sure that the project itself is sustainable, it's addressing a real need. There are multiple sources of income, not only from donors, so that they're not only reliant on one donor, because we were flooded with requests for support, and you can't help everyone.
Yes.
So it's very difficult.
Okay. Now, and just building on what you just said, and as the different NGOs were presenting, they mentioned other organizations that are assisting them. Let's say, how do you formulate that relationship that we want to assist this particular community or this particular organization, but we're competitors in a business environment?
For us, corporate social responsibility is not a competitive issue. We've always promoted collaboration. We really want to collaborate with like-minded institutions and corporates to, be able to make a bigger impact. What I've found over the past year is that you get requests from a number of different organizations for basically the same, project, but they don't work together. So in terms of, say, ECDs, early childhood development, I can count 4 or 5 applications that I received in the last couple of months to support ECDs, but none of them are talking to each other. So I've actually started to force them to talk to each other and then come back to me. So it's about collaboration. When funds are scarce, you need to pull together your resources.
Just to ask around, when you look at corporates, in your view, what do they want from NGOs? Because there's always that aspect of, we give you something, want a return. Is that always the case, or there's something else that you're looking for?
Thank you. I think also building on the previous submission that was done on sustainability, yes. I think one critical component, especially at the beginning of the formation of the relationship between the two entities, the corporate on the one side and the project in the community on the other side, yes. I think it is important that the needs of the people on the ground also respond to what the corporate needs, and vice versa. And I think that actually also determines the kind of relationship that will actually be built during the period of time, and also that has got a significant influence on the total output at the end. Because if the corporate comes in a community and says that this is what we want to implement, but it doesn't have the popular support of the people on the ground, then eventually people, of course, go along, but eventually they do not go along with the hearts, they don't support it, and they don't contribute. And that's a key element of sustainability, actually, that is left behind. And then also what I think is important, it's important for the corporate, especially for the corporate side, to understand and also to determine at the forefront that what kind of CSOs and NGOs do we want to work with? Do we want to work with NGOs that are already established, that have got all the kind of challenges they face? For instance, they have their ideas, or they don't observe and take care of the project management principles that should actually be in place in order to make sure that the projects succeed. And therefore, this is actually one of the reasons, for instance, why you see that a lot of projects are implemented, but there is no monitoring and evaluation, there is no reporting, and there is no project assessment and way forward. So it's a project that comes, but also there is nothing actually on the ground that you can point out to. And I think finally that is also critically important is also to realize that we have got a lot of briefcase NGOs. And also that has been made more prevalent by the challenges of COVID and lack of access to funding. So people look at it as a means to a survival, rather than actually what the people need on the ground. I can give you an example. You find somebody representing an organization based in Windhoek, the person himself, but the organization, for instance, is in a pool. And if you ask the person that, how do you link your presence in Windhoek with a project in a pool? They will give you the philosophical argument, but if you go to a pool, there is nothing that exists.
Okay. Now, Ignatius, just building on what Dennis said, and it's actually interesting he raised that, and looking at B2 Gold, do you believe that there's a need to only specifically invest in projects that are within your mandate as a company? Or can you look at various needs, like what some of the things that Desiree was talking about?
With B2, we've got 4 distinct focus areas. Health, education, arts and culture as one pillar, and then livelihoods, and then the environmental sustainability that we look at. So, and we don't necessarily say that if a project is outside of the scope, that we're not going to consider it. Like I said, going back to my first point, I think it's critical to identify what the need is. And second to that, it's also important to identify what is the beneficiaries of the project. What is their participation in it? You know, do they also bring something to the party? It doesn't necessarily have to be finances, but some sort of in-kind contribution that they perhaps also bring to the project. So we don't necessarily only focus on our focus areas, and also, as you know, our operation is in just outside of Chivarango, so we are in the Chizanjuba region. But the good thing about B2 is that we see this as a national benefit, and therefore we operate across the country.
Okay, no, thank you. Now, from the public, the crowd, do you have any questions? Any questions? Everybody's happy. So we're going to see, okay. May we just please give Motire a mic? She just raised her hand. Okay, no, thank you so much. She's just on this table.
Good morning. My name is Motire from NWR. I just have one question. It's with regards to donations. Does donations then only, or is companies only involved in food security donations, educational donations, or does that also include sports donations? Because in the informal sector also, sports is another discipline that helps youth in the right direction, or helps them concentrate and motivates them in the sense of self-esteem, as well as be concentrating at school. So does donors also look at donating in sports facilities or sport education?
Okay,
I don't know if that's clear.
Okay, well, this seems like you take the question. Thank you.
From Capricorn Group's side, we, through Bank Windhoek, have over the years invested in a number of sport codes, but not only, if I can call it professional sportsmen and women, but the development of specific sports codes. So Bank Windhoek has been involved, for example, in the development of hockey in Namibia, the women's cricket, the Capricorn Eagles, but a big part of that is the development of the sport, and why we chose that is women's cricket is actually the sport that is growing the fastest around the world, and it provides an opportunity for young girls to participate in a sport like cricket. So definitely from our group's perspective, we do see the importance of sport and sport development as part of a holistic support to the youth, not only education.
Okay. Dennis, Ignatius, do you have anything to add?
I want to add some value to that also. I think from our side, we broadly look at every proposal based on merits, but also I want to draw attention to one of the projects that we managed that concluded in 2020. One of the beneficiaries, that project actually trained about 50 different civil society in 5 regions. And one of the beneficiaries of that project was a sport foundation called Kanita, is in Amuthia. So I think from our side, we also do the training and soft skills development. We don't discriminate basically, but we don't provide the physical infrastructure. So we look at, and also in addition, what we have done is we network them with international potential donors in terms of seeing what are the loopholes and what are the needs that could actually be addressed. So we are quite open.
Okay, so from B2 side, we have also, and we're currently supporting a BMX cycling development program under Kayak in Otjiwarongo, and also one other program in Otavi. So as much as we have focus areas, we don't necessarily say that we're not going to look at anything that is outside of our focus areas. However, what we want to see is that there must be a solid plan. There must be some meaning behind what you want to do. So what I mean by that is that, for instance, if we decide now this weekend we're going to have a quick tournament and we just want a trophy, and thereafter, after the soccer match, everything is going to die and there's no continuation of your intent, then it makes it difficult for us to get involved. So there must be a solid plan going forward, and that's what we look at.
Okay, there's another question. That'll be our last question because I see we're running out of time.
Good morning. My name is Robert Hayambo. I'm representing 2 organizations. Firstly, Do It for the Kids Namibia, which is a local non-profit organization, which I co-founded in 2018. We work specifically with regards to helping kids in the informal settlements in areas of education, sports development, cognitive skills development, via chess and so forth and so on. We work mostly with volunteers. It's a volunteer-centric organization, so that our long-term goal really is to try to not focus more on what can we get financially to help these kids, but how can we, as people that have come from the communities and graduated and now have access to A and B and C, how can we go back and contribute, not only financially, but in terms of training these kids in terms of chess, sports, and so forth and so on. Are there also opportunities then, for example, from Bank Windhoek, B2 Gold, so that we come through there and say, look, this is our plan. We are a young NGO or young impact-based organization, and we would like to partner perhaps, or for you guys to assist us in terms of helping these communities. You don't ask for money, all we really want to is training. And it's good that we had the gentleman that just spoke as well to say they can assist us with training in terms of how we can better serve these communities, whereby we pool resources in terms of young people who can come and assist kids in the communities. Volunteering, not getting paid, but at the end of the day, serving these communities so these children can grow up with a better future. So perhaps that's the first question. Is there an opportunity for organizations like this, whereby we come through, we don't ask for money, we just say, really, in terms of assistance, maybe in kind or mentorship and so forth and so on, from the Bank Windhoek, perhaps a bit to gold. And then the second question is from my capacity. I'm wearing now the hat for Project Hope Namibia. Project Hope Namibia is an organization funded by USAID and PEPFAR. These are American organizations. Donors. So with Project Hope Namibia, what is currently happening is we're trying to win off foreign donors, which is now the American donors. They have a contract for every 3 years, which they renew. It started in last year, it's ending 2023. Now what management has decided is that we'd like to win off that aid so that we can now focus on more local aid or local donors so we can be able to be self-sustainable. Within our programs, we also have programs whereby we train literacy and business skills to parents of children living with HIV, because those are our main clients. Communities or households living with HIV. Now the question here is it possible for us to come through to Bank Windhoek, to B2 Gold and say, this is our plan, this is what we've been doing, this is the impact we've created in terms of the 8 regions where Project Hope is involved in. The foreign donors will perhaps not renew the contract after 2023, but is it possible for you guys as local donors to come on board perhaps and assist us so we can continue these programs? We show you how sustainable this will be, but then perhaps getting that local funding in. Perhaps those are the 2 questions from the Do It For The Kids side and also for Project Hope Namibia. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maybe I can start with your second question first. If you have international donors, try and keep them because the local resources are so limited, and all the foundations and organizations only have so much money to give. So we will definitely be open to receive any proposal submitted, and we'll assess it through, our focus areas. We try and align it to the social progression pillar and the sustainable development goals. So definitely. And on your first question and comment, at Capricorn Group, and there was a video that we played around our change makers, we actively promote volunteerism amongst our employees, and we've got a wide network of change makers, and we often use our employees to, share their skills and knowledge in the communities in various different ways. So if there is an opportunity for our employees to support an organization, we will definitely look at that.
Okay, no, thank you. Anything from your side, Dennis or Ignatius?
Yes, I will take a slightly different approach. I think also, speaking from the international donor perspective, I think there are certain expectations from the international donor perspective that are critical, that often led to the failure of most proposals from local CSOs. And one of those criteria is that it is really important that local CSOs also work on internal strengthening of their documentation and processes. For instance, do you have a strategic plan in place? Does your strategic plan contain the financial outlook over what period? Do you have a constitution? Who do you meet? What are your structures inside? What processes do you have? So I think it's important that also CSOs concentrate on those things so that when they submit an approach, they are also able to meet some of the more stringent criteria.
Okay, so the short answer in addition to this is yes. Yes, from our side, you can certainly approach us. We'll have a look at your plan. And the good thing is that if we see that this is something that we're not going to be able to live up to, we've got a broad network of other potential donors as well. So we also do have that capacity to refer you to them.
Okay. I think we'll close off the questions right here. I also need to say thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you for joining us. I need to also just welcome, that is Marcia Reed, who's going to be doing the thank you remark. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We need to get you investors back to work so you can make money, that we need the money. So if you can maybe just show the next slide, the one you had a bit earlier on with Emily's face on it. Emily Wilkes, Nation Builders. This is our strategic partners in South Africa. And Dara and myself attended an impact management and measurement masterclass with them. In this presentation shares that we're not going to show now because you need to go make money, please. We're going to send you the link. Please watch it. Nation Builders are presenting all the material to us for free. We just need to get somebody to present it. So that is quite amazing, but we need to measure our impact, otherwise we are losing it. Grace, we need to say goodbye and thank you. From Lithon's side, it is just amazing to work with Capricorn. The partnership is great. What you are doing, involving us and getting all the people here today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for being like-minded. And thank you for taking over from me, because I can go on forever. You need to come closer,
Not
please.
a problem. Now, we need to say thank you so much to each one of you, and our coffee date soon. Thank you so much, and have a pleasant morning further.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Every collaboration starts with an introduction, a moment in time where the stars align at the right place, at the right time, and with the right people. It's the connections we make with one another that form the foundation upon which we build our future. Put simply, it's the start of something new. And when we take those first steps toward positive change, toward our hopes and dreams, we treat the connections we make with care. Because with years of experience, we've learned that the path we choose is not nearly as important as those who walk it with us. No matter the end goal, the trust we choose to put in others is the biggest investment we can make for our future. The Capricorn Group has been walking beside dreamers since 1982, connecting them with the right people and solutions to turn their ambition into opportunity. And it all started with an introduction. Capricorn, we are stronger together.